This is Jaden's Videos, and today I'm going to be doing an unboxing and review on the new for 2024 Spirit Halloween MACK Straw Animatronic. This is MACK Straw. So I got this guy at my local spirit store yesterday. Well, one of my local stores. It's not my closest one, it's not my biggest one. If you saw the video, it's a rather smaller location. My other one should be opening soon though, which I'm excited for that, but I was able to pick this guy up, which I was really happy about. This guy, well, first off, if you don't know me, I really love classic Halloween stuff, and one of my favorite Halloween icons, monsters, has always been scarecrows. And so I already am drawn to this guy because of that, but if you don't know, which you should by now, but if you don't, my haunt theme for this year at Fearville is called Maple Hollow, and it is a very classic vintage Halloween type of haunt. So it's a very different type of theme, very trick-or-treat neighborhood type of vibe. And this guy, to me, scarecrows are classic Halloween, but I was gonna stray a little bit away from using too many scarecrows this year because they're more farm than full-blown. You know, they are classic Halloween, but they have the more farm rural aesthetic, and this is more of like a, like I said, trick-or-treat vintage Halloween vibe. However, this scarecrow in particular has way more of a classic Halloween vibe than, say, ones like Straw Man or Jack Straw, which are more farm oriented. This guy, though he does work for a farm, of course, he's got a very classic fall Halloween vibe to him. Just the way he looks, his face is kind of jack-o'-lantern-esque in a way. I just thought he'd be so perfect for this year's haunt. And also, this year's haunt, because of the theme, it is more outdoorsy, it's more of a trail than a full-fledged indoor haunt. And this guy is weatherproof. So I thought that's even better because the more weatherproof things I can have in the haunt, the better, because the less things I need to drag in and out each night. So I was really excited to get him. There's a side of the box. He's not my absolute favorite of the season, but he was definitely, him and Shirley Stab, which is why they're the first two I've gotten this season, were the two that were most important this season in terms of what I have a use for haunt-wise. He is one of my favorites though. Like, even if this wasn't a year where I was doing a theme where he'd fit, I'd possibly still consider purchasing him. He wouldn't have been as much of a priority, but I possibly would have still considered purchasing him just because I love scarecrow stuff. And I think there's so many themes where there's always going to be uses for this very classic type of thing. And I love doing farm things. And Fearville is an event on a farm, so I typically use scarecrows in the main hub area anyways, even if they're not a part of the haunt itself. But all that out of the way, slide out box. Love that they have so many of these this year. Very convenient. I don't know what this guy's made by. It might be techie. I honestly have no idea. But here's his instructions right here. I'm hoping he's going to be pretty simple. I don't know how it's going to look because if you saw in the box and if you know anything about this guy, and he does have stakes, so that's good for outdoor use. If you know anything about this guy, he is much like the hovering witch from Home Depot from a couple years ago, where she's supported by the broom and her herself is floating, and that's also like the levitating Reaper from this year at Home Depot, which is actually even more similar to because it's he's holding a scythe, the Reaper is, well, this guy's holding a pitchfork. They're very, very similar. It's that type of thing, and so I don't know what the structure is going to be like for this. I'm not sure if this is a part of the costume. It looks like it. So it's got this material that's very like plasticky because it is outdoor rated, so it can't be like a lot of fabric. And same with the straw. Usually straw that we see on Scarecrow animatronics is very like actual straw. This is like a shredded plastic type of thing. But I think that's good because considering that this guy's outdoor rated, that's what you're going to want. And again, this is a nice plastic material too. I mean, it's not like it's bad quality. It's great quality because it is for outdoor use. But it is not going to be fabric. But no one's going to notice that. Here's one of the arms, which has a glove, and there's actually Velcro on those fingers there. The glove looks pretty cool. And I guess when she put the Velcro around the pole, it's going to shape that hand better. Here we've got the poles for the the pitchfork, which these are very, very sturdy metal poles. I thought they were going to be plastic, but I mean, it makes sense that they're metal because they have to support his whole weight. So there's a few of those. You have this shoulder piece, shoulder bracket right there. Here's the top of the pitchfork, which this is plastic because that doesn't need to support any weight. Here's another arm, same thing with the Velcro. Here's the stakes in here. I'm going to leave these in here because I'm setting this guy up inside right now. Here's the base, very interesting base because it's only got one pole. Usually, you know, animatronics have two for the legs, but since this guy is supported by his scythe or his pitchfork, one pole, and that's very good welding and very, very sturdy there. Very good welding on that. Again, I would hope so since it is outdoor rated, but it does have some pretty great quality. And last but not least, we're going to look at the head, which, no surprise here, this is a plastic head, not latex or anything, because, again, outdoor. It's quite large, wow. I have seen this guy in person, I saw him in stores, and though he's 8 feet tall, he doesn't look massive. But I think that's simply because they're taking into account the top of the pitchfork as the 8-foot point. So the Scarecrow himself is not 8 feet tall, it's just the top of the pitchfork is. But his head is still pretty large, you can see here, and that's a nice form on that hat. And again, good quality for the hat for the outdoor purposes. I love this face. This is the thing I love the most about this animatronic. And what I mentioned is he's very Halloween looking. He looks like a farm Scarecrow, of course, because all Scarecrows work for farms. But if you get what I'm saying, he's less of a farm Scarecrow than something like Straw Man, where he looks like he's like thrown together and stuff. This is more of a classic Halloween-looking Scarecrow when it comes to how his face looks and that grin, which is absolutely awesome, and the stitched-on nose, and he's got a very, very jack-o'-lantern type reminiscent face, and he's even got the orange around his eyes. So he's just a very classic Halloween-looking guy. This guy is massive, for real. The pitchfork at the top is bending to be able to stay in my fit under my roof here, and I have an 8-foot roof. So this guy is huge, and honestly, that's a great thing. You know, big animatronics are great, and this guy is awesome. Now, the Scarecrow himself isn't massive, just as I said. He's a regular size. He's actually probably only about 5 feet tall if he were to stand on the ground, but since he's hovering and since the pitchfork is so tall, it makes for a pretty imposing animatronic. Again, the coolest thing about this guy is just his appearance. He looks so incredibly awesome. I love the face sculpt on this. I think they did a great job. I love the look of it. So classic Halloween, and honestly, a look of a Scarecrow that we've never gotten before. We've gotten a lot of Scarecrows. I own quite a few Scarecrow animatronics. We've never gotten one that looks like this, and that's why I think this guy is just so perfect for this year's haunt. It is so classic Halloween, and I'm going to use this guy at the event in general for many years to come, just because he's just so cool and he's so Halloween. His animation is very basic, of course. It's just side-to-side head turning, and all his audio is laughing. I am very happy that all the audio is laughing, because I typically... I think talking animatronics definitely have their place. I think a lot of line greeter animatronics and stuff like that should talk. But for my purposes, a lot of animatronics, I would prefer if they don't talk, because in haunts, incorporating an animatronic that talks is very difficult, because people are just going to keep walking by it, and it's just kind of pointless in a way. So I love that all he does is laugh. I think that's great. Great audio in my opinion, nothing wrong with that. I actually would have preferred if they took out the laughing and just had the wind howling, but you know, I think it's good for what it is. Basic animation, again, nothing wrong with it. Originally, when I first saw him, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, I was wanting something more. But, you know, I respect it, because it doesn't need to be anything more than what it is, because he's just kind of like a placeholder, cool animatronic to put in a haunt or a display. He's not going to be your showstopper, but he's a very cool one that really just his appearance alone, I think, sells him, and he's probably going to be something that people see in the haunt and go, ooh, that's cool, and hopefully will distract them from an actor sneaking up behind him to scare him. That's what I think a good animatronic placement would do in a haunt, and I think that this guy's going to be good for that. Really, really cool. I love the appearance. The floating is awesome. It's nothing new that we haven't seen before. We saw the witch at Home Depot was floating, and honestly that was more impressive because she was 12 feet high, and she was floating way off the ground. And I'm assuming that's going to be the case for the Levitating Reaper too. But for a much cheaper scale version of that floating gimmick, this guy is very good for that. I think he sells it well. And again, he's just got a great look to him that I really like. So I highly recommend this guy. If you like classic Halloween stuff and scarecrows, I'd say if you like the look of him and you don't mind having a just kind of basic animation animatronic, I recommend you get him. I think he's awesome, and I think he's definitely worth the price. That's something I need to talk about. The price on this guy is fantastic. I think it's a very, very good price. And typically, that's not something I would usually say regarding Spirit animatronics in the past few years. The prices have been pretty high. But this year, there's still some high prices, but I think the highest price thing this year is $350. And that is definitely better than the highest price thing being $400, which was last year's case. And so there's very reasonable prices on most things this year. And this guy is a good example of that. $180 for this, I think, is a steal. I think it's a very solid price. You're getting a great sculpt. You're getting a great looking character with animation, audio, and he's freaking massive and has a great gimmick of the floating effect to him. So I like him. I think he's really cool. I highly recommend him if you like this type of thing. I remember when I saw videos when people were first getting him, I was a little underwhelmed. I was like, oh, that's it? But seeing him in person, you really got to see him in person to respect him. You notice how big he is and just how cool he really looks. I mean, I can't get over how good that sculpt is. Definitely one of my favorites of the season, and it shows that simplicity is sometimes the best thing. I really like this guy, and I hope you guys do too. Let me know if you plan on getting MACK Straw this season. Again, very affordable and very cool. Let me know what you think about him in the comments below and what your favorite animatronics are this season, and we'll see what other ones I'm going to get coming up soon for more unboxings and reviews on here. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember that here lies Halloween.